Hi everybody, Brian here from quantlabs.net. Today we are going to show you, or I'm going to show you a new trading bot design I'm looking at doing. I'm hoping this will be one of the more effective ones since I've been looking at this. Okay, so if you're interested in learning about algo trading, you can visit our DVD section at quantlabs.net/DVD right here. If you're on Facebook, you want to get some free books, just type in the word free, quantlabs.net. We'll also get you there too by just filling out this form. All right, so couple things. I've talked about in the past few days about researching Binance futures capability. To me, it's the most open, transparent market out there when you factor in how a lot of forex brokers and the bucket shops that they are will go out of their way to cheat you.
Hi everybody, Brian here from
So we know about that.
quantlabs.net. Today we're going to talk about quant analytics.
Shut myself up there.
Hi everybody, Brian here from
Sorry
quantlabs.net.
about that.
Today we're going to talk about quant analytics.
Okay, good. All right, so we know about the bucket shops that cheat you. Also, I've been playing around with the stocks, specifically US. It's a guessing game, and there's really no real formal way to predict returns and whatnot from that. So what I started doing, luckily, is to be able to start investigating Binance futures here by looking at Binance crypto futures market info, which is quite detailed in why I think the crypto market is quite transparent, especially on Binance. That's a YouTube video I have on my Quant Labs YouTube channel. Also here, dissect Binance futures order book, bid and ask. This is very critical. I'll go into more detail with that. Also, I did analysis yesterday about how cryptocurrency has been, for the last, let's say, 5 years, the best performing asset class out there, comparing it to Forex, the commodities, to US stocks. Bitcoin, Ethereum still beats them all by a massive amount. Also in there, I put in here a video on my own verified trading account, and it suddenly dawned on me, in order to do really well in crypto, it's not about trading. It's about holding and selling and buying like in any typical traditional exchange. So if you're going to buy BTC and you sell it, or let's say you buy Litecoin in BTC, you can then get converted into BTC when you hold it. That's how I'm able to do quite well. And from this video, I've done well because of Ethereum. So things have changed in the last 6 months since the futures market has come about. So I'm going to show you in this video a number of things that we need to know about, especially when it comes to Binance being pretty well the cleanest and biggest broker out there that I trust. And they've done pretty good. So in a nutshell, I've doubled my money in about 4 to 5 months with crypto just by holding it. So knowing that, let me show you a few things. So what I've done is I've built a little script in Python called Python 3 Intra Crypto Python. So what this will do, this will give me all the necessary details I need to know about what's going on in the world of Binance, especially in the futures market. And a lot of people go, well, that's no different than a broker. Look, I've gone through enough research papers to show that Binance does pass a variety of tests. It also seems to be pretty honest. I can't say for sure, but most of the exchanges I've seen out there in crypto, this solves the bit. It's very liquid, very high in trading volume. It's very cheap to trade in. And here in the futures market, everything is in USDT or Tether. And I have to say that there's been a lot of changes in the spot market of Binance. I might one day do a video on it, but from what I've seen so far, Binance has become a very big exchange now with USDT. In USDT, it's bigger than from what I'm seeing in the spot market, bigger than when you trade in Bitcoin or Ethereum. So originally I was going to be trading in Ethereum, but from what I've seen, it's all now in Tether and USDT. And I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so we should be done here with this little script here. So when I open up this particular script here, or Excel spreadsheet, which this script can generate. I've shown that in my Python course quite a few times. What we got here, it's pretty impressive what is available to you. I've gone through that without the other videos I've shown you, but I made some changes here to this file. I made it a lot more useful, and I've also found some bugs that is part of the evolution of trading. All right, so what I've got here, the big one is to watch this one. These are the number of buys and sells in a very short time frame. So it's one thing to know the bid quantity and ask quantity and the price of those pairs, but also it's important to know what's actually being traded, because if you look at the traditional world of stock markets or future market, any market out there, you want to be able to trade in what has been traded, not what's been quoted, because when you base your trading decisions and trading market direction off of what's actually traded, not what's quoted, because spoofing can take place, it's better to do that. It's more accurate. So when you know that, for instance, here you can clearly see there's just an entire downward pressure on these four coins, okay, right now, because 100% sell orders versus buy orders. No one's buying. But there will be some, not all the time, where this could be reversed, where you have the upward pressure of people just buying in a frenzy. That happened earlier today, or yesterday, I should say. This is a great market condition to test things in, to really test your chops. But as I said, these are actual trades that happen on the exchange. As I said, not quoted, and then there can be then quote stuffing, as they call it, and you have better data to work with what's actually being traded, and then you can base that on the average sell price and buy price of those orders that are actually traded. Also, you can get buy quantity and sell quantity of what's being traded, okay? And that's really important, because a lot of the level 2 stuff will not give you that. The only ones that may get that on, let's say, a big exchange, like a stock exchange, is either going to be a level 9 or dark pool. And if you're on any big exchange, it's really not to your advantage not knowing that. It's the advantage of the big players that have access to that data. But here, as I said, on Binance, you get that data. So that's what I'm saying. It's more transparent, it's more open, it's more fair. Everybody gets the same access to the data without having to be, pay to play kind of thing. Very important. So a lot of my decisions on trading are now based upon this new, call it newly discovered, newly accessible data that I have access to. We clearly know this is not a trading condition. So when I look up visually on any of these pairs, usually a really bad one that comes up always not in a good. I don't know what's going on my computer here. Okay, I'll have to do a refresh here. Hang on for a sec. Hopefully I can get this working. All right. So knowing what I've told you, and nobody's telling me this, I'm just going, what is this information? So here's the order book market depth of the market. Okay. So here we can see the price and the size of the order and the total amount in USDT. Okay. And really important to know that when you take a snapshot of the market. Okay, it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to do this for whatever reason. Let me pull up it on the browser. We'll try Opera. Try to avoid Chrome as much as possible these days. But, okay, let me just load that puppy up. Okay, hopefully this will work. Okay, so here we are. Okay, so this is what I was wanting to show. So if I was to move to the worst performing pair, if it'll get me there, VET USDT. Okay, I want to show you this order book so you have a better understanding of how things look when you have access to this. Okay, come on. Anyways, let me just ignore that then. All right, so with that, you can see here VET is at the bottom, and that's because of this average number of buys and sell average, which is between these two. Okay, so we're able to distinguish what's got the strongest demand right now out of the 20 pairs I can trade in the exchanges, sorry, in the futures exchange. So I know supposedly EOS in Tether, XTC, IOTA, and Ethereum. Now, one thing I can say about historically, it's been like this all day, okay? Since probably 10 a.m. and it's now last 12 hours. So this order's been the same for the last, like I said, 12 hours. So knowing that, nothing's really changed, but we have some opportunities here on the downside. So I've created another script here. Well, I modified actually, which will go in and analyze between 2 pairs and 5 pairs based upon this data that we have, getting the average returns on hourly data for a week. Okay, so it's going to measure those returns of hourly data for the last week. And remember, the exchange, the crypto exchanges never close, so this is like always open. So when I run this, what will happen is it will go in, download all the data it needs, and then it will whip up this report as it gets to it. Let me just see if I can. Oh, here we go. So you can see here in the order book, you have a lot more sells than buys. So that's pretty evident here. Whereas if I go to, let's say, try to find, let's say, yeah, Link, which was performing really well today. Let me show you that. See if I can find that. I don't know what's going on. All right, so let's see here. Yeah, my system's really slow. probably for the amount of stuff that I'm running on this system. Okay, here we go. This is what it's doing. So essentially, what we've got here is we are running some analysis here, and basically what it's doing is it's downloading the best performing pairs from the spreadsheet. So the top pairs would be EOS and TZOS. EOS and XTZ would be the two best. Okay. And then what it'll do is it'll give you some sample return data on hourly data. Now, what you can see is this is the Unix timestamp. And what you can see here, you can see pretty how volatile this is. I mean, we've got in the last few hours some great returns on TZOS in the last few hours, but it's still pretty volatile. So here's our average returns, okay? And we can also measure a covariance as well. I mean, this is kind of, I won't say it's meaningless, but you could see what is co-integrating with each other. And here we have different methodologies of setting our weighting on if we were to do a trade. So for instance, for a minimum variance portfolio with a long only on these two pairs with these weightings, we would expect to get these returns. So for instance, a Sharpe ratio is 15%. That's not bad, but that's 0.15%, and then this one would be a 0.25% return. Okay, so with the Sortino, and as I showed you, there is some volatility here. Okay, especially in the last 3 hours for EOS. Okay, so what we could see here is what it's saying is put more 2/3 into EOS, 1/3 into XTC. If I want to get roughly a 0.25% return. Okay, so if I want to do a combination of long and short, still nothing changes here on the long and short, and nothing really changes. I mean, even if the market flattens out with a Sharpe, I should, again, this is all theoretical, I could get a 0.25% return. Same with the Sortino. Here it's saying my expected return would be 0.91%. So let me repeat that. These are my ratios, okay? You want to go with the higher ratio, obviously, but this is the expected return in percent return. So nothing really changes here. But now it's saying I can get a much higher return if I do this. If I do Markovitz, assign 70% in TZOS and EOS 30%. So I can expect to get 2.76. Now again, this is based upon historical performance over the last set of number of hours over 7 days. And then my expected ratio, Sharpe and Sortino will go up. Now, if I combine a long and short, which is pretty well the same, okay, because I only have two instruments here, nothing really changes. But here's where it gets interesting. If now futures is good because here in crypto land you can't really can't short, but you can in the futures market. So I put up a link on that in my blog. Showing how to do it. It's basically a sell. And you do a short on EOS, and you do a long on TZOS. Technically, you could get a 2.76 return. So it's really the same. And again, this is just expected, okay? This is just theoretical. So don't bet your farm on it. So off it goes. Okay. Let's see if it'll do the next one. Okay, now it's going to do more downloading. I don't know why it's so slow. Okay. Okay. I'll leave it at that. So it's still downloading. Might be the recording. It's not much chewing up the memory, that's for sure. I'll get rid of itself. All right, so now we have 4 assets to choose from. Excuse me. Okay, so now we reduce it from 2 to 3 instruments. And again, same thing. So now we're adding the third best IOTA, okay, in USDT. Here you can see in the last 3 hours, it's had some really strong negative pressure, negative return. So again, when using this, if I do, I would probably more rely on the Sortino versus the Sharpe, because the Sortino factors in volatility. And believe me, it's very volatile in crypto. So the only one that's giving me a decent return is Tezos. So we got EOS and IOTA. Here's a covariance again. And here in this one, we just do a long, and our expected return will give us a negative 1.42. So obviously I wouldn't even look at that. Why would I trade it? Here we're getting a 1.62. Now it's starting to get a little better. But again, it's only I'm longing. So what it's saying here is to do my weightings through this. And then my return would be 1.26. So obviously, you want to go with the one that's going to give you the highest expected return. So here, with this kind of mix, here that will give me the best return so far. So let me note that. Okay, so moving further along here, what we have here is negative expected return. I wouldn't even look at those. Again, that's if you're in a shorting. This one, this is all longing again. Markowitz long only. Expected return 1.26. Here's the allocation. Long short. That's not worth looking at either. Now, a few things I want to highlight here. So now we're moving into 4 instruments, I think. Yes, so now we're doing 4. Okay, so we're going from EOS, Tezos, IOTA, and now we're adding in Ethereum. So again, you can see the negative returns of the last 3 hours. The only one that's been positive is Tezos. So let's see, our expected return, negative. Negative. This one, This is a long only. So here's our allocation and the weightings. But I'll give you a summary of what I think in the next little bit. Here we have one short in EOS and do longs in the others. But generally, And you can see here 1.66 expected return, and that's it. So the best one usually is you just take the top two and only the top two. And then out of that, you try to find a mix of what you should long to get the best return. So here we probably, well, combined with the performance of teasers, it's possible we could do okay. Now, the question is, why would you trade teasers or any other coin when you know the only one that's giving you performance of the last number of hours is just teasers? So why don't you just trade teasers? So doing this kind of automated trading or portfolio optimization enables you to do an analysis on, do you trade only teasers because I'll give you a decent return, or do you mix it up to get a better return? In this case, I'd probably only trade teasers because just because of the performance of the last 3 hours of all the other ones have been negative, but the performance for just teasers is good enough. And you got to remember, what I showed you in that spreadsheet, I did show you that the market is overall down. I mean, it's severely down too. So by doing this, there is potentially a potential. So let me just run this script again, this intraday thing, see how things are changing. Okay, so take a little. So knowing this, let's say you had a serious update and you wanted to boost your returns. You normally wouldn't want to just trade one or the best crypto coin out there. You might want to use a combination, doing through the same portfolio type of analysis to get you a potential higher Sharpe or Sortino and an expected return. You use those combinations. As I said, you could use shorts if you want, and that may be useful as well, but I like to have a long bias all the time in the crypto space. You could short in the futures market, but I haven't really done it fully yet. But from this analysis, it's quite useful. So let me just pull up this spreadsheet again. Okay, so we'll pull this up. Okay, so I wanted to show you let me come back to that in a minute. Okay, here it comes. All right, so we still have the same order: EOS, XTZ, Ethereum, IOTA. So let's see if I can call up IOTA. Now, if you're wondering about the order of why this is displayed the way it is, it's the order of when they add new coins. So here's IOTA. And you'll just take a look at the depth of the market. And right now, from what I'm seeing, with IOTA, for every buy, there's 4 sells. So let's see if we can see that in the market. Seems to be some more buying than selling. Now, you got to remember, this is depth of market. This is not actual, these could be just quotes. You know what I mean? This is my whole point. So if you were to look at this depth of market, or DOM, that would throw you off. Whereas what's really happening is on the trading front, liquidated trades. We know that for every buy, we have 4 sells. So it's a very strong um, downward coin. And how do we know that? Because if I look at that script I just wrote, or I just showed you, the optimized portfolio, this thing, if I look at that, that will prove to me that that is correct. But even though you look visually at the depth of market, and this could be said about any asset, any asset class, if it's a stock, forex, even if you got access to the depth of market, it still will throw you off. Really, really, really important to know that, because part of that is that you're not getting the full transparency of what's really going on in that on that exchange, and you just don't have access to what's being actually traded, even though you could have algorithms and bots or whatever putting out the quotes out there for all this stuff, throwing off the depth of market, and they do that on purpose. That's why they have, as I said, dark pools and stuff, because that's where you want to know what's being traded. So if I look at the performance of IOTA on an hourly basis, I guess it's the next one. You could see here that IOTA or XTC, this one, it's not as well. It's not as bad. All of them are really bad. I mean, you got no buying at all in certain coins whatsoever. But the least bad, I guess you could say, is Tezos, and that's right now. So a matter of 3-4 hours ago, it probably had better performance. Let's hope that we have. So this is what I'm discovering. Let's see what happens here when it loads up these 3. So where do we go from here? I'll answer that in a minute. Looks like we don't have IOTA. Okay. So where do we go from here? Knowing what I'm seeing based upon the raw data, based on this, a couple of things we can take away is it doesn't matter what indicator you use, doesn't matter what movement, all that stuff is useless. What really matters is the demand of the actual coin in real time, or really close to real time, be it in an hour, be it in 2-3 hours. But from what I'm seeing, this order of what's being bought and sold on the exchange has stayed, like I said, for the last 3 hours, or for the last 12 hours. So that means that whatever I decide to trade can hold for a while. So essentially what I'm saying is, if you know that is the case, you could just do some decent trades on Tezos, knowing it's potentially going to give you better performance. It should. Now, in this case, there's in all 20 pairs, as I said, there's not one pair that has more buys than sells, meaning there's not enough buyers in the market for a particular coin to drive up the price. Because we kind of know that, chances are I don't think I'd want to trade right now. But you could easily build a bot using this data, using what I just showed you here, be able to make that decision. And when the markets do drive up a particular price, or a whole combination, you can use these weightings, optimal weights, based upon what model portfolio you want, if it's Markowitz or if it's minimum variance or whatever, and then be able to judge those trades, if you're going to trade at all, and use the weightings of that trade and be able to trade as long as you know the market on the bid versus ask of real trades, not of, as I showed you here, of this depth of market nonsense. So, for instance, what I wanted to show you is, I wish I could show you something that's more convincing, but it won't matter. But it's really useful to know this information and be able to know exactly what's being bought and sold in the markets without having a series of algorithms tell you, oh yeah, by looking at the depth of market, you know that you have more buyers than sellers. That's not true, because as I said, this could be just algorithms putting out quotes or testing the market and then pulling off the trade and canceling the order. So there's a lot of that going on, I'm sure. But when you look at the aggregate, I can't remember the name of it. Let me see here what the name of it was. Yeah, I could do it through here. Okay, let's move up. Now this is downloaded from the Binance GitHub. So this API, I'm going to show you some examples here, is right from Binance, not from if you've gone through my course CCXT. Things have changed so much in the last 6 months, it's crazy. So when you look at this one right here called Get Liquidation Orders, that's what we're talking about. And also get aggregate trade lists. So let's see if I can run that. This is the only exchange that I know of out there out of anything. It's US markets, stock markets, whatever that, or Forex. Nothing gives you this information unless you pay for it. And that's not cheap. So here we have, I'm not sure if this is by particular pair. So the pair we're looking at, I'm not sure what pair it is. It doesn't matter what pair it is, but the idea here is it gives you, here's the order, here's the price, here's the quantity on that order. Okay. Problem is we don't know if it's a buy. We don't know what side it is, if it's a buy or a sell, or short or long. But here, it's transparent. Like it gives you. I think this is probably Bitcoin. It's probably a sell as well. So here we can get information on what people are doing, how people are trading, and I don't know any other exchange that gives you that. That's very, 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 very transparent. And the other thing I forgot to mention is the buyer a market maker? So you can judge who's a market maker and who's not. Okay, that's also important information. I haven't done that type of analysis yet, but just wanted to show you that. The other one that's really important is this one right here. What I mentioned before is a Python get liquidation orders. Now again, this could be whatever coin it is or whatever pair. Again, everything's going to be in US dollar, Tether, USDT, so it won't matter. And this is Link USDT. Okay, so here's the key right here, this side. This is what I'm using, and it's all the way up to 100. So I know how many buyers are in the market right now, are pretty close to real time. You can see there's been a couple of buyers in the market, and that might mean, are they pumping up the price or whatever they're doing? And I get everything that I want on the quantity. Doesn't tell me here if it's a market maker or not. I don't think that really matters. But the quantity, the price, and if it's a buy. The buy is the key, because the buy tells you what people are doing for this particular pair. Okay, and again, it's really important that's coming from the exchange, and it's true, because a lot of brokers don't give you this data. And the other thing is if the data is truthful or not. But here it is. I don't see why Binance would go out of their way to cheat here. Let me see what other scripts I could show you here. There's this one right here, Python get order book. And for those, thank you for the like. I always forget I have an audience out here. But this is very, very important to know, because here this is what we're looking at here. This stuff right here. The order book is here. Okay, but let's get real. Like, it's structured in a way we don't know how to segregate the sells versus the buys. You know, I mean, we just have tickers to work with. But here we could do a mathematical percentage breakdown of how many are buys and how many are sells. Here, yeah, essentially this is all we're getting right here. It's just this right here, and this little set of data right here is really important, because you're not going to get that, as I said, in a regular exchange. But here you get it. It's to your advantage. And for those that want to acknowledge that, this is where you get it. So, how do we do entries and exits based upon what we know here from this strategy? Well, the really cool thing is that obviously there's two scenarios you don't want to trade in. As I said here, let's see if I can get it, pull it up. No. But when I ran that portfolio optimizer, what it would tell you, here's your expected return, like here. Okay. Now we kind of know from the script how many we know the historical performance on particular pairs, as I showed you in this case for both EOS and XTZ or TZOS. From there, if we know it's volatile and it's very negative, chances are we can then look at the expected return. If we know that the expected return is always negative, chances are we don't want to trade that. So that's one condition we don't want to trade if you have a long bias like I do. Or another way to look at it is on the number of sellers versus the number of buyers. Obviously, if you even have, earlier today, there were two pairs that were trading where there was more buyers than sellers. And that was evident in what I just showed you. So if that is the case, then you know that those pairs you could trade as long as the demand is there. Now, if the demand is there, you could easily watch how the markets are doing by running the script I just showed you called the intra crypto that generates a spreadsheet. So you know that if when there's the supply and demand of certain pairs, you can also watch the supply and demand as, in this case, the number of sells starts to drop against the number of buys, so there's now more buyers coming in the market. And when that happens, you know that potentially there's going to be a turn in the market. And after a while, you give it a certain percentage that you're willing to enter in the market for those pairs, then you do that. And then you go into the entry. And then you can just hold on to that trade or that position until the demand for that particular coin starts to drop. And that's it. I mean, do you really need an indicator for that? No, because this is real time. You're basically buying on simple supply and demand. That's it. Very simple strategy. The problem that you would have in other exchanges is namely that they're not giving you this type of data. But because Binance is in the futures market, is enabling you to do that. Now, that's pretty powerful in itself. What you can see here is we have something called leverage. Ooh. So we can get leverage up to 75%. If we know convincingly, let's say in reverse here, we know, like in this case, for Vet Dash or BNB, there's no buyers in the market like here, where it's all only sellers, and we have the ability to short or sell, and we know that for sure. We could put on positions to short. It's a very simple trade. And once the number of buyers start to step in, then you get rid of the trades. So we are able to analyze that. And if we know that, we can then maybe actually calculate a leverage for it. Now, leverage depends upon the size of your account, because obviously you need the cash to cover it. But you could go pretty crazy with this. So I'm planning to do that with leverage. But I want to just keep it very simple by just trading on the supply and demand of the number of buyers and sellers in the market using this data. So that's what I'm planning to do. And we'll keep it at that. I'll keep you in the loop on that, but I've already talked to 2 people about this. If you go to my Quant Lab shop, or even better, if you get in on my email list, I have a new service, or not new, but it's been around. I'll be adding this to my analytics service very soon. Well, probably the next couple of weeks here. See here, this is what I'm referring to, this Quant Analytics right here. So right now you get a 3-month subscription, but you could do it monthly, and a lot of people don't want to have the cash for $300 to test this out. But if it works, you can probably make it back pretty fast. As I said, a lot of people are always now looking for verified accounts. Well, guess what? I've got that now available through cointracking.info, and that's directly connected into my Binance account. So once we go live with this, you'll be able to track that. As I said, just watch this video again called verified. It's called. Hi everybody. Hang on here. Brian here from QuantLabs.net. This is the first time I'm actually doing this. This is a verified. Okay, so it's called Verified Cryptocurrency Trading Account up 230% in 4 months. That's since November. So you want to get on. You want to watch that to see the performance, and have that verified. And now adding this new potential, call it discovery, whatever you want to call it, it's going to really hopefully elevate the performance on my portfolio quite a bit, and even more if I use the leverage as well with the demand that we could see here and the number of sells and buys. That's pretty well it. But if you are watching this on Facebook, just type in free and you'll get the books and stuff and all that. All right, so we'll leave it at that, and I will say thanks for watching. Hopefully the delays on this didn't really kill it off, but what can you do, right? Anyways, thanks for watching. Have a good day, and we shall talk to you soon. Have a good day. Bye.